There was a time when you were wronged, when they spoke to you with words sharper than knives, when they overlooked you, ridiculed you, discarded you as if you were insignificant. They thought they had the upper hand, that their cruelty would define you. Life moves in ways we often cannot predict. At times, it feels unfair, as though cruelty goes unpunished and kindness is overlooked. You may have been treated poorly, cast aside, or made to feel small by those who believed they were untouchable. Perhaps they acted as if their power, influence, or position would protect them indefinitely. But life does not forget. Life does not allow imbalance to persist forever. Everything in this world follows a rhythm, a silent justice woven into the fabric of existence. It does not always operate on our timeline, nor does it require our intervention, but make no mistake. What is given is returned, and what is taken unfairly will eventually be accounted for. There is a natural balance that governs the universe, a force that ensures the cruelty of some does not remain unchecked. Think back to the times you suffered under the weight of their mistreatment. You might have been frustrated, angry, or heartbroken, wondering if they would ever face the consequences of their actions. The injustice of it all may have burned deep, leaving scars that time struggled to heal. Yet even then, something within you kept going. You endured, you adapted, you became stronger, wiser, more resilient. And while you were growing, life was quietly keeping score. Now the tables have turned. Those who once treated you unfairly are facing hardships of their own. Perhaps their arrogance led them to ruin, their dishonesty caught up with them, or the same cruelty they inflicted has returned to them in unexpected ways. It is tempting to watch with satisfaction, to feel that sense of poetic justice as they struggle with what they once put you through. But this moment is not about them. It is about you. There is nothing wrong with acknowledging the justice of the universe, but what truly matters is how you respond. You see, those who seek revenge are bound to the past, chained to the very pain they wish to escape. But those who recognize life's balance for what it is, an inevitable force, find peace instead of bitterness. Your energy is no longer required in punishing them. Life has already handled that for you. You have a choice now. You can dwell on their suffering, allowing old wounds to reopen, or you can let go and walk forward with a quiet confidence. The greatest triumph is not in their downfall, but in your ability to move on. Because while they may be suffering, you are no longer the person they hurt. You have grown beyond that moment, beyond their words, beyond their actions. And here lies the true lesson. Pain has a way of teaching. It refines, it sharpens, and it builds strength in ways comfort never could. The adversity you faced was not for nothing. It shaped you into the person you are today. The wisdom you carry, the resilience you have developed, the patience you have learned, all of these were forged in the fire of your past struggles. You have emerged not as a victim, but as someone who understands the deeper truths of life. What happens to them now is no longer your concern. Life is teaching them lessons in ways they never anticipated, just as it once taught you. If they were blind to their actions before, they will see clearly now. If they thought they were above consequence, they now stand corrected. But your energy should not be spent on their suffering. Instead, use this moment as a quiet reminder of the natural order of things. That cruelty is never the final chapter, and that no one, no matter how powerful they seem, is exempt from the balance of life. Let them face what is theirs to face. You have greater things ahead. You have a future to build, a purpose to fulfill, a peace that is finally within reach. The past is behind you, and the universe has already spoken. Keep walking forward. True strength is not found in retaliation. It is not in the sharpness of your words or the weight of your vengeance. It is in restraint. It is in the ability to look into the eyes of those who have wronged you and choose not to become them. There is a moment in every life where we stand at a crossroads. One path leads to the satisfaction of striking back, and the other leads to the quiet dignity of walking away. The first path is easy. It burns with the fire of resentment, fueling the impulse to make them feel what they made you feel. But what does that accomplish? Does their suffering erase your own? Does their downfall lift you higher? Or does it only tie you to them, binding you with the very same chains they once placed on you? The second path, however, is different. It requires more than anger. It demands wisdom. To choose restraint is to recognize that their actions are not a reflection of you, but of them. Their cruelty, their ignorance, their malice, these were never your burdens to carry. When you resist the urge to respond with the same bitterness, you prove something far greater than your ability to fight. You prove your ability to rise. Think about this. The most powerful people in history were not those who acted on every impulse, but those who controlled their emotions even in the face of betrayal. A weak person reacts. A strong person pauses. A wise person understands that silence often speaks louder than retaliation. Walking away is not weakness, it is mastery over yourself. There will be times when those who wronged you will expect retaliation. They will expect you to stoop to their level because that is all they know. Their world is built on conflict, on one-upping, on proving dominance through harm. But what happens when you refuse to play that game? What happens when you meet their hostility with indifference, their insults with a calm smile? They lose control. They begin to realize that their power over you was never real. It was only ever the illusion that you allowed them to create. This is where your true power lies. Not in revenge, not in proving a point, but in the quiet, unshakable confidence of knowing who you are. There is nothing more unsettling to those who thrive on control than someone they cannot provoke. The moment you stop reacting, you take away their power. Some will say that justice must be served, that fairness demands a response. But fairness is not yours to enforce. Life has a way of correcting its own balance. Those who mistreat others will face the consequences of their own making, not because you demand it, but because it is inevitable. A person who sows pain will always reap regret. It may not happen immediately, and you may never witness it firsthand, but rest assured, life does not forget. You, however, have a choice. You can stand by and watch, consumed by the drama of their downfall, or you can keep walking, unaffected, unbothered, untouched by their suffering, because your destiny is not tied to them. The greatest revenge is to build a life so fulfilling that their memory fades into irrelevance. Restraint is not submission, it is not weakness, it is the ultimate show of strength. It says, I have nothing to prove. I do not need your downfall to validate my worth. When you reach this level of understanding, you free yourself from the cycle of pain they tried to trap you in. Let them live with the weight of their own actions. Let them experience the consequences of what they once did to you. But do not waste your time waiting for it, hoping for it, obsessing over it. The moment you let go, the moment you rise above, you win. Because the truth is, they were never the real enemy. The real enemy was the part of you that believed you needed to fight back to be strong. Now you know better. Now you are free. Adversity is a teacher unlike any other. It does not ask for permission before it enters your life, nor does it offer comfort as it delivers its lessons. But those who mistreated you, those who spoke against you, those who dismissed your worth, they unknowingly became your greatest educators. They did not just hurt you, they shaped you. They did not just try to break you, they forced you to rebuild yourself stronger. Think back to the moments when you felt small, when their words or actions made you question your own value. They treated you poorly, not because you were weak, but because they saw something in you, something they either feared or refused to acknowledge. People who seek to diminish others do so because they are unable to rise themselves. Their insecurity disguised itself as arrogance. Their weakness took the form of cruelty. They believed they were in control, but in reality, they were revealing their own fragility. At first, it stung. Of course it did. The unfairness of it all was overwhelming. You asked yourself, why me? What did I do to deserve this? But the answer was never about what you lacked. It was about what they could not handle. They saw resilience in you and they wanted to shake it. They saw potential in you and they wanted to bury it before it had a chance to shine. But here you are, still standing. You learned how to navigate through the storm. You learned to rely on your own strength when no one else extended a hand. You learned that respect is not something to be begged for, but something to be lived by. And the greatest lesson of all, you learned that their treatment of you was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their own limitations. Pain has a way of refining us, of chiseling away the parts of us that were never meant to last. Every harsh word, every betrayal, every moment of dismissal, it all became the fire that forged you. Without those experiences, would you have grown into the person you are today? Would you have found the determination to prove, not to them, but to yourself, that you were always more than they allowed you to believe? They underestimated you. They thought their actions would define you, but instead, they gave you something they never intended: wisdom. You now recognize manipulation when you see it. You understand that people's words do not always match their intentions. You have gained a deeper awareness of who deserves space in your life and who does not. And most importantly, you now understand the importance of treating others with dignity, even when you were denied that courtesy. It is a strange irony. The very people who sought to bring you down ended up pushing you towards something greater. They forced you to develop strength, patience, and resilience. And now, as they struggle with their own consequences, you do not need to feel anger or seek revenge. You do not even need to acknowledge them. You have already won. The best revenge is not proving them wrong. It is proving to yourself that they never had the power to define you in the first place. It is not about their suffering. It is about your growth. Let them wrestle with their own demons while you walk freely, unburdened by the weight of their actions. Because in the end, you did not just survive their cruelty, you transformed because of it. Time is a patient observer, a silent architect of justice. It does not rush, nor does it falter. It simply moves forward, revealing truths that were once hidden in the shadows. When you were mistreated, when they belittled you, excluded you, or saw you as less than you were, it may have seemed as though they had won. It may have felt like their words, their actions, or their cruelty had some lasting power over you. But time, in its quiet way, begins to peel back the layers of illusion, exposing reality for what it truly is. Those who caused you pain did so because they believed they could. They believed perhaps that their position, their influence, or their strength made them untouchable. They thought they were in control, that they could shape the world to their will, and that their actions would remain without consequence. They did not understand the nature of time. They did not see that every action, every decision, and every cruelty carries with it a weight, a ripple that extends beyond the moment. At first, it may have seemed that they walked away unscathed, that life rewarded their behavior while you were left to carry the burden. You may have questioned why injustice appeared to prevail, why those who inflicted harm seemed to prosper while you were left with wounds to heal. But time, with its patient hands, continued to turn. It is not in a hurry, but it never forgets. And then, as the years pass, you begin to see the unraveling. The same arrogance that made them cruel becomes their downfall. The same disregard they had for others returns to them in ways they never expected. They lose what they took for granted. The things they built on the foundation of their mistreatment begin to crumble. Maybe their relationships falter, their successes slip through their fingers. Or they find themselves alone, facing the consequences of choices they made long ago. This is not about revenge. It is not about taking pleasure in their suffering. That is a shallow victory, one that brings no real fulfillment. No, this is about understanding a fundamental truth. People do not escape the weight of their own actions. It may take time, months, years, even decades, but the energy they put into the world eventually returns to them. There is a certain justice in the way life works, not always visible at first, but undeniable when you look closely. The ones who hurt others are often running from something within themselves. They build their sense of power by taking from others, by pushing people down to lift themselves up. But a foundation built on brokenness cannot stand forever. It may appear strong for a time, but eventually the cracks begin to show. And when that moment comes, when life finally holds them accountable, they will remember. They will remember the faces they disregarded, the hands they pushed away, the kindness they mistook for weakness. They will understand, perhaps too late, that every person they harmed was a reflection of who they chose to be. That realization will not be easy for them. It will not be something they can ignore. But by the time this happens, you will have moved on. You will have grown beyond them, beyond the need for validation or retribution. You will have built a life that is strong, not because of them, but in spite of them. You will look back, not with anger, but with understanding. You will see that their suffering was never yours to deliver. Life took care of that on its own. And that is the greatest lesson time reveals. You never needed to get even. You only needed to move forward. Because the truth will always come to light, and those who cause harm will one day have to face the weight of their own actions. Your growth is the best response. That is where your true power lies, not in looking back, not in seeking vengeance, but in becoming someone they never expected you to be. Growth is not loud. It does not announce itself with grand gestures. It happens in silence, in the moments when no one is watching, in the choices you make when no one is around to applaud or criticize. There was a time when their words cut deep, when their actions left scars you thought would never heal. Perhaps they dismissed you, ridiculed you, made you feel small. Perhaps they took advantage of your kindness, mistook your patience for weakness, and underestimated your strength. They saw you as a stepping stone, as someone they could push aside, believing you would always remain beneath them. But what they failed to understand is that people do not stay in the same place forever. Life moves forward, and so do we. You could have responded with anger, you could have sought revenge, taken the low road and given them a taste of their own cruelty. But had you done that, what would have separated you from them? The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not in the obstacles they face, but in how they respond to them. You chose to grow, to rise, to move forward without carrying the weight of resentment on your shoulders. Nothing is more unsettling to those who have mistreated you than seeing you become someone they can no longer control. They expected you to stay hurt, to stay broken, to dwell in the darkness they left you in. Instead, you used that darkness to build something stronger within yourself. You became resilient, you learned, you grew, and now you stand taller, not because you sought to prove them wrong, but because you chose to prove yourself right. Life has a way of revealing the truth in time. Those who mistreat others often do so out of their own insecurities, their own fears, their own weaknesses. They build their sense of power on shaky ground, and when it crumbles beneath them, they find themselves lost. You, on the other hand, built yourself on a foundation they could not touch. They do not have a say in who you become. They never did. Let them see you thrive, not out of spite, but as a testament to the fact that their cruelty never defined you. Let them watch as you step into a life they never imagined for you, not because you need their validation, but because you have outgrown their influence entirely. You owe them nothing, not your pain, not your time, not even your acknowledgement. The past does not need to be revisited when the future is calling you forward. There is no satisfaction greater than realizing that you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. When you reach that point, you are free, free from their opinions, free from their judgment, free from the weight of what they did. That is true power. Not holding on to the past, but walking away from it without looking back. It is easy to be consumed by resentment, to wish for their downfall, to hope that they suffer as you once did. But that is not growth. That is still allowing them to control a part of you. True growth is understanding that their suffering is not your concern. You do not need to watch. You do not need to celebrate. Your energy is better spent elsewhere, on yourself, on your dreams, on the life you are building that has nothing to do with them. One day, they will realize what they lost when they mistreated you. They will understand the depth of their mistakes, not because you told them, but because life will show them. And by then, you will be so far ahead that it won't even matter. Keep moving forward, keep growing, keep becoming someone so strong, so unshaken that their actions feel like nothing more than a distant memory. That is the best response you could ever give. There is a weight that comes with holding on to the past, especially when the past is filled with pain, betrayal, and injustice. It lingers in the mind, replaying itself in quiet moments, whispering reminders of what was done to you, how unfairly you were treated, and how much you suffered because of someone else's choices. It is easy to hold on, to grip tightly onto the anger, the resentment, the desire for justice, or even revenge. After all, why should they get to move forward while you are left carrying the scars of their actions? But here's the truth. Holding onto the past does not change them, it changes you. The longer you allow yourself to dwell in the pain, the longer you allow them to have power over you. It does not matter if they are suffering now. It does not matter if life has brought them to a place of struggle, loss, or regret. That is their path, their journey, their consequence. But you have a choice. You can let the past define you, or you can step beyond it and claim the life that is waiting for you. Think about it. How much time have you already given to those who hurt you? How many hours, days, years have been spent reliving what they did, how they made you feel, how they treated you? And what has that given you? Has it made you stronger? Has it brought you peace? Or has it only kept you tied to a moment that no longer exists? Life moves forward, whether you choose to or not. And at some point, you must decide whether you will remain trapped in a chapter that has already been written, or whether you will turn the page and begin something new. Letting go is not about saying that what they did was acceptable. It is not about pretending it did not hurt. It is about refusing to let it be the thing that defines the rest of your life. There is power in release. There is strength in being able to say, yes, they hurt me. Yes, they were unfair, but I am no longer giving them my energy. It is a quiet kind of victory, one that does not require shouting, proving a point, or making them see what they have done, because in the end, they are no longer your concern. Some may argue that forgiveness is necessary, but forgiveness is often misunderstood. It is not about excusing their behavior. It is not about welcoming them back into your life. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. You do not need to tell them you forgive them. You do not need to seek closure from them. You do not need them to understand. You only need to release the grip they have on your thoughts and emotions. It takes wisdom to recognize that moving forward does not mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over turmoil. It means deciding that your future deserves more attention than your past. The moment you choose to focus on your growth rather than their downfall, you reclaim your power. You redirect your energy toward building something meaningful rather than wasting it on what has already crumbled. People who have wronged you will face their own reckoning in time, whether it is through their own guilt, life's natural course, or simply the realization of what they have lost. But you do not have to be there to witness it. You do not have to wait for their suffering to feel whole again. You do not have to measure your healing by their pain, because real healing is not about them. It is about you. Letting go is not weakness. It is not defeat. It is the ultimate form of strength. It means you refuse to let your past control your future. It means you have chosen yourself, your happiness, your growth. And when you do that, you will find something greater than revenge, greater than justice. You will find freedom.